In this problem, Pugsley keeps his 55 pet tarantulas in 3 different boxes labeled A, B, and C. Box A contains 3 times as many tarantulas as box B. Box C contains the fewest number of tarantulas, and we are asked to find the greatest possible number of tarantulas in box A. Okay, the greatest possible. So that tells us there's probably more than one solution to this problem. We're asked to find the greatest possible number of tarantulas in box A. So let's just start out by writing down what we know in mathematical terms. We know he has 55 tarantulas, so we know that the number in box A plus the number in box B plus the number in box C is equal to 55. Okay? And we're also told that the number in box A is 3 times the number in box B. So we can write that down. A is equal to 3B. That's just another way of, a mathematical way of saying what is set up here in words, that box A contains 3 times as many tarantulas as box B. And then the other information that we're given is that box C contains the fewest number of tarantulas. Okay, so that's telling us that, okay, so if we were to rank A, B, and C according to the number of tarantulas that they have, let me leave a little space here, then C has the fewest number of tarantulas, and since we know that A has 3 times as many as B, so we know A has the greatest number and B is the middle and C has the fewest number of tarantulas. Okay, well, we have essentially 2 equations, but we have 3 unknowns. We have 3 boxes that contain tarantulas. And, but the other information that is sort of implied by this problem is that these are pet tarantulas, and the solution to these equations has to be an integer. So the other implied information is that we have integer solutions. Okay? And that's just basically telling us that we're not going to put half a tarantula in one box and half in another box. So these are full tarantulas, they're pet tarantulas. Alright, so we're assuming that they're live tarantulas, otherwise they would be tarantula specimens. And so we're going to assume that they're whole tarantulas. Okay, so that means that the number in each box is a whole number, an integer. Okay, so let's see. So we need to work with that. Well, the first thing I see is that we can actually make a substitution. We know that A is equal to 3B. Okay, so we can just replace A over here with 3B. Okay, so we'd have 3B plus B, that gives us 4B, plus C is equal to 55. Alright, but this doesn't have a unique solution. We have 2 unknowns here, but we do know we're working with whole numbers. So let's rearrange this equation a little bit. Let's say 4B is equal to 55 minus C. Okay, we're just subtracting C from both sides to get that. And so we have an integer times 4, and that's equal to 55 times C. Okay, so let's take a look at this in terms of multiples of 4. Okay, so I know that, okay, so I could take 55. Let's see how many multiples of 4 are in 55. If I divide that by 4, I get, let's see, 1, 15, 3, and then we have 12 and 3. So we have a 13 with a remainder of 3. So 55 is 13 times 4 plus 3. So I could write that as 4 times 13 plus 3 minus C. Okay. The other thing too is if I had one more tarantula, I would have 14 times 5. So we could also write that as 14 times 4. Oops, 4 times 14, let's write it that way, 4 times 14 minus 1, okay, because if I had one more, if I had 56 tarantulas, that would be 14 times 4. But I don't have 56, I have 55, so I'm going to subtract 1. Okay, so this is basically the same thing, alright, these two things. And this one is actually just a little easier to work with, just because, well, let me write it down here. I'm gonna actually, let me erase this, because I don't want plus, I want minus, okay? And minus 1 minus c is the same thing as minus a 1 plus c. So I'm just going to write it like that. Okay. So what we have, let me just summarize what we have here. We have 4b is equal to 4 times 14 minus 1 plus c. Okay? And you can see this 14 times 4 is a multiple of 4. So if 1 plus c is a multiple of 4, then the whole thing is a multiple of 4. Does that make sense? So if both of these things are multiples of 4, then we can factor out a 4, and then we can figure out what b is. Okay? So let me scroll down a bit here, give us some more room to work. Let's take this information and make a little table. Okay, so let me just summarize what this says. This just tells us that c plus 1 is divisible by 4, okay, in order to get it an integer solution. Okay, so let's make a little table. Okay, c, b, and a. Alright, so let's try some values of c, b, and a and see what we get. Alright, now I'm taking c plus 1 and I'm subtracting that from 14 times 4. And and we know c has to be a positive number because we're dealing with tarantulas and I don't know what a negative tarantula looks like, so we know c has to be positive, okay, and so do a and b. And so the first number that will work here is going to be 3, because if I put in 3 plus 1, that gives me 4, and so the whole thing, this whole thing on this side of this equation is going to be a multiple of 4. So 3 will work. Alright, so what does that mean if I have 3 tarantulas in box C? Then, okay, so then this is 4 times 14 minus 4, which is just going to be 3 times 14, right? No, I mean 13, sorry. Okay, we have 4 times 14 minus 4, so that's going to be 13 times 4. Okay, does that make sense? Let me write that over here. So if we have 4, actually we have, I could write this way, 14 4s, and I subtract 1 4 from it, then we end up with 13 4s. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. So if we have 13 4s over here and we divide it by 4, then b would be 13. Okay, you see how I got that? So I'm just substituting in the 3 for c and finding out that b would have to be 13 for that equation to work. And then we know that once we know b, we can figure out a, because a is just 3 times b, so that would give us 39. Okay, so that's one solution to this equation. Now the next possibility for c that gives us a multiple of 4 here, where c plus 1 is a multiple of 4, would be 7, because if I plug in 7, then what I will have is 14 times 4 minus 2 times 4, right, because 7 plus 1 is 8, so that's twice 4, and so then I get 12 times 4. Okay, so in this case, when c is 7, then b is 12, and then a is 3 times b, so that's 36. So you can see as we increase the number of tarantulas in C, we reduce the number of tarantulas in box B, which reduces the number of tarantulas that are in box A. So this has to be the solution, 39. Okay? Now, the next one that would work would be 11. Okay? So 11 plus 1 is 12, so that's 3 4s, and then we have 14 4s, so B would be 11 also, and I believe we get 33 then for A. But you can see this violates the statement here that A is greater than B, which is greater than C. Because now we have C and B have the same number of tarantulas, and we were told that C has the fewest number of tarantulas. So this doesn't work. So we actually only have two solutions. So you get 36 or 39 tarantulas in box A. Okay, and the greatest possible number of tarantulas is 39.